In this video, we are going to add the user interface in-game. So the text that will display the score and the pause menu and the corresponding overlay. It's going to look something like that in the end with 3 buttons that allow you to, say, quit the game if you want to. So back from our main screen, we are going to create a new scene for our user interface once again. So we're going to start by calling the scene user interface and saving it to the disk in our user interface folder. Let's start by adding the theme so that our UI looks consistent with the main menu and the end screen. So we'll put it just on the top level user interface node, and everything else will inherit from our theme. Then let's create our score. So our score is going to be a label that will anchor in the top right of the screen. So go to the layout menu and top right. This means that when you click and drag on the node to move it, it will be relative to the top right of the screen. You can align the text to the right in the label, and let us type our template text score, colon, and modulo S. Remember, this modulo S is a template that we will then replace from the code. I'm going to move the node a little bit again so it stays in the top right of the interface. All right, with that, we have our score label, really. We're going to create the pause overlay straight, and we're going to create it inside that scene. So we're going to start by making some color rectangle that's going to cover the entire screen. So let's add a new node and look for color rectangle or color rect. Then with that new node selected, go to layout, full rectangle. So as you can see, it's just a colored rectangle. We can change the color in the inspector. We're going to go for a transparent black overlay. So click to open the color picker, drag to get some black color, and then we have to change the 4th channel. So we have RGB for red, green, and blue components of the color. And to change the transparency, we want to drag the A for alpha. So go down to something like 60, a light overlay. Then we're going to create our pause menu. So we're going to have a title and then a list of 3 buttons. Let's go to our source folder, user interface, and we have title that we can click and drag inside our color rectangle that we'll rename to pause menu or pause overlay, because this node is just the overlay, it's not the menu itself. So we're going to have our title called paused, like so. We're going to center it and move it up a little bit. Then select the pause overlay node to add a new node as a child of it with Control A, and we want to look for VBox container again. So vertical box. Go to layout center to center it, and we're going to use the Alt key and click and drag on the corners to resize it around its center. Let's make it something like that, a box that has enough space for the 3 buttons we'll put inside. I'll move the title up a bit. I renamed the VBox container to pause menu, and then we want to add our quit and scene change buttons inside. So you can go to the file system and select the 2 scenes and click and drag them inside the scene tree. And you can see the blue bar under pause menu, which means that they will be added as a child of the pause menu. Then, if your buttons are properly set to expand, they should take all the available space here. Let's take the scene change button in the scene tree, and there's a shortcut to move it up and down the hierarchy. Control up arrow to move it up, Control down arrow to move it down. And look in the view how the order of the buttons change. This is really the magic of these UI containers. Now we're going to have our scene change button right down main screen. It's going to go back to the main screen. And for the scene path, we want to go, so in our file system, to the screens, main screen, you can right click to copy the path here and right click to paste the path inside the next scene path slot. And that way our button is set up. Now we need to add one new type of button, a button to retry the current level. So we're going to create a reusable scene once again. We're going to get either button, quit all scene change button, right click, duplicate the scene in the file system tab, and let's call this retry button. Press enter to create it and double click to open the scene there. Now I'm going to rename the node retry button, and we want to change the script on it. So I'm going to click the remove script icon and click again to add a new script. It should save automatically to the right path, user interface /retry button.gd, click create, and there we're going to have a similar setup to what we had before. So note that the signal connection is still there and still on button up, going to call an underscore on button up function. So I'm going to type function on button up. It's not going to take any parameter and it's going to not return anything either. When we want to retry the level, here's what we want to do. First, we want to set the score back down to 0. It's going to update the score in the user interface, but we don't want to reset the defs. This is why we don't do player data.defs equals 0, or we don't call player data.reset, right? We just want to set the score back to 0. Then we're going to reload the current scene. So get tree, because this function is on the scene tree node, so we have to call the get tree function to get that node, dot reload current scene. And finally, we'll do one more thing ahead of time. We're going to add a pause system, and the pause system is built into Godot. So you can call get tree to get the scene tree again, and this scene tree has a property called paused. So you can say paused is equal to false. So what's going to happen is, because that button is in the pause menu, you know that if you are clicking that button, it's that the game is currently paused. So when you click it, you are going to unpause the game so that when we reload the current scene, you can play instantly. And that is it. We can save, close the scene, press F1 to go back to the 2D workspace, and click and drag the retry button in our pause menu. Oh, I forgot one thing. So let me reopen the retry button scene to set the button text to retry. Go back to the user interface, and voila, we have our full pause menu. In the next video, we're going to code our pause system on the user interface node.